Right, so here we are, part four of the Music Is series. I'm Tali, and I am the founder of CAYA, which stands for Come As You Are, enterprise and audio, founded in 2016, one of only three female sound systems in the UK. And CAYA Audio is set to launch its first product this year. So let me tell you a bit more about the Music Is series and why it is that we're here and I'm doing this live, etc. It's because obviously we're currently in a pandemic and I'm operating and have operated for some time in the live industry. And at the moment, it's a real downtime for those involved in any way, shape, or form, purely because we're not as active as we usually are, in terms of live gigs, sessions, etc. Artists, presenters, broadcasters. And so I thought to start a conversation, really hone in on, music and the impact that music plays on one's life. And it's a 12-part series, and today is part four. And I'm joined by DJ Terry Hooligan. I cannot do him enough justice, so I'm going to allow him to do that. But so far, we have had a range of guests from Young Warrior to Erica McCoy, traveled all the way to Australia last week to a researcher and artist there. And yeah, today we are blessed with DJ Terry Hooligan himself, and he's going to do an amazing intro because I can't. So,
well, unfortunately, I'm only in boring old Wembley, but I'm not in Australia or anything.
no.
Well, my name's Terry Ryan. I'm a professional DJ and have been for the last. Professionally, I've been a DJ for 21 years. Before that, I was a DJ since the early 90s. So I've been a DJ all in all for about 31 years. I go professionally by the name Terry Hooligan or Atomic Hooligan. I have a couple of record labels. I own and operate a DJ school, a DJ academy. Yeah, don't DJ very much at the moment because obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I've been putting all my focus into my academy, and I just recently started a online DJ mentoring service called My DJ Hub. My life is DJing basically, and sharing my DJ experience and skills, and with whoever, with everybody.
Good, good, good. And just to say a bit more about how we actually met, we met last year via Keisha G Studios, and yeah, it was really quite strange. Well, not strange, but I think from yeah, pretty much as soon as we met, I felt that there was kind of an undercurrent of connection in that, yeah, you just seemed to vibe, and there was this kind of like undertone of creativity, of kind of a knowing, and obviously since then we have developed a friendship, and I'd like to think, and yeah, it's obviously I'm aware of everything that you're doing, and as much as possible want to be involved because the academy is phenomenal. Your track record is, yeah, second to none, and obviously you're a scratch DJ, which as far as I've come into contact, I've never met one, so that's a huge thing.
Yeah, we are the unicorns of the DJ world. Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. There's a lot of very good scratch DJs out there since the kind of the tech and access to kind of this secret method of moving records backwards and forwards has been.
Yeah, but I'm talking like pre all the advances on tech, and all the cool stuff that you can do now. You're kind of like you're old school, right? You're kind of like you weren't able to kind of say, okay, that guy over there is doing this, and so let's link up. It was like a one-man band, and right very now
so, yeah,
it's a lot easier to network and to have to raise your status and your profile. But 21 years in, and you're here on this live and doing phenomenal stuff still. I think that's a huge achievement. Huge achievement.
Yeah, so yeah, like when I first started in the very early 90s, like 91, 92 kind of time, I thought I was the only person doing it. I mean, I saw my American heroes on MTV and like kind of VHSs if I could get my hand on one, and on radio as well. And I heard what they were doing, and kind of slightly understood it. It wasn't until, I tell you what, it was a Tribe Called Quest. There was a video called "We Got the Jazz" by a Tribe Called Quest, and Five Dog, R.I.P. from a Tribe Called Quest. He mimes some scratching in one of the videos where he goes bus, bus, and I knew that you did that with that hand, but I had no idea what was going on here, what he was doing with the crossfader. I was like, it makes sense now. It was like an enlightening moment for me to go, oh yeah, bus. He's using the crossfader on the mixer. That's what's getting all those like kind of cut sounds into it.
Yeah.
There was little spark moments like that where I thought, oh, okay, so it's not just that. You do that and that together.
Incredible.
And he's not even a DJ.
Honestly, I just think, and you know, it's not an overnight thing. You know, the amount of dedication and consistency that goes into it, I feel, is like, yeah, you can learn. It's almost a lot more convenient to learn now, you know, because the technology allows you to. It doesn't take as much time. Whereas, you know, when you learn, it was way back when, and things weren't, you know, you had to be committed, and you had to, you know, it had to be your passion, I believe. Otherwise, you wouldn't, because it's not overnight, you know.
No, not at all.
So moving on. To obviously the series questions. The first one always is, how has music impacted your life?
You know what? It's actually quite a hard question to answer, just purely because if for me, if there was no music, there would be no life, or no life to enjoy, no life to savor. Music has impacted me in that it's given me pretty much everything. Like it's given me an identity, it's given me a passion, it's given me work, it's given me a life, really, like all the aspects that you would consider to be a life. Every single part of that for me is involved in music. Even from, I know it's cheesy, like getting up in the morning, listening to music as I go to sleep at night. Just when I was younger, they say that whatever you're into around like kind of 11, 12, 13 years old is your formative years of like kind of whatever you're into then, whether you'd like to admit it or not, as like a kind of older man or an older woman or older person. That's the stuff that you're going to love for the rest of your life, be it films, music, food, whatever. You're going to have a passion for that.
That's interesting, because a lot happened in my adolescence that I think, was definitely, it's what I'm doing now. Definitely.
Yeah. Those formative years, that kind of 11 to 15-year-old, like kind of, and a lot of people come back to it as well. The amount of students that I have that fell in love with like kind of old school jungle and stuff like that, or whatever it was at that kind of age, and now coming back to it in their like kind of late 30s and 40s. But for me, I completely lost myself in music. I found something that was mine. I found something that I owned. It was mine, and it belonged to my soul. And that was hip hop. Like it was hip hop culture, hip hop music, mostly hip hop music, but everything about hip hop and rap music, be it graffiti, be it breakdancing, be it DJing, absolutely everything. I discovered it, and I just wanted to keep it for the rest of my life. And that's how profoundly it's affected me, because still to this day, like if I research, like I was a bit of a kind of research kid when I was younger. I used to go to the library all the time. I used to like just try and accumulate as much information on things as possible. I never really did very good at school because I was never really that interested, but stuff that I loved, I just wanted to find everything out about. And that was hip hop for me. And still to this day, that's what I do with that's almost my hobby, to be honest. Like it's, I wouldn't call myself a hip hop historian, but I'm definitely like an amateur hip hop historian. I'll listen and consume absolutely everything to do with hip hop, because it's what I fell in love with as a kid.
Incredible. And obviously we share the history of Brent, North Wheezy. So there's always there's that connection. So I feel like everything, you know, again, around those formative years, you know, based on what you're interested in, you know, your surroundings, your environment, they all contribute long term to what you
100%.
eventually, you know, like there's parts of me that are embedded in Northwest London, even though I no longer live there. You know, it's who I am, you know, despite not living there. And yeah, there's a knowing, just like when I said I met you, there was a knowing that it was more so than just, okay, we're both creatives and artists and in the same space. There was an undercurrent of a knowing. So yeah,
I definitely felt that as well. Like there's certain people that you meet in the course of your everyday life, whatever you're doing. You may do cool stuff, you may not do. It might not be a cool thing that you're doing. You might just be walking to the shops or something. But when you meet someone and you like kind of and you connect with them, and there's lots of different ways to connect with people. I mean, music is an obvious one, but cultural, like kind of lifestyle, all this different kind of stuff. And if you can create like a bond just over one very small thing, then you know you've met someone that you want to carry on, like kind of having a relationship with, having friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what was your very first recollection of music, would you say? What was the first time that you thought, oh, that's like, you know, that's something that stayed with you, that kind of sparked your interest? What was it?
So I'd say there was three distinct moments. When I was, we moved to, like, me and my family moved to Watford in the mid 80s, I want to say. But we're in Northwest before that, and we were in one of those like kind of 50s, 60s style, like kind of flats, like a kind of corner flats, and it had like the garden in the middle. It was like a communal garden.
Yeah.
And I must have been very young at this point, and I don't know whether it was my dad's radio, my mum's radio. My mum absolutely loved him though, like absolutely loved Stevie Wonder. And I just remember Isn't She Lovely playing on a stereo or a cassette or a radio or something like that. It was just playing, and I was just consumed by Stevie's voice. And I remember that at a very, very, very young age. I can't have been any more than 4, 5, 6 years old. I was just playing football with my dad in this garden area.
Wow.
And I heard it, and it impacted me so much that I wanted to hear Stevie Wonder's voice. I mean, that I had a very early love before I like really fell in love with hip hop. I was very much into like Tamla Motown, soul, Marvin Gaye. I used to go around to all the secondhand record shops and buy all like the if anything said Motown on it, I didn't care if it was like 60s Motown, 80s Motown,
incredible,
Marvin Gaye or whatever. I just wanted to hear Motown.
Yeah.
And I think that massively impacted me. I think the second one, and this is definitely the most impactful one, I'd say, was I heard again very, very young, but it was when we were in the house in Watford, so I know it was like kind of after the Stevie Wonder thing.
Yeah.
I heard there used to be like these adverts on the TV for like like cassette compilations and vinyl compilations and stuff, like Ronco's Best of Country and stuff like that. And I'm not sure what compilation it was, but I heard it was on an advert because I saw that advert a couple of times. I heard Herbie Hancock's Rocket, and that the scratching sounds, that I heard that and I lost my mind. Like I absolutely lost my mind. I just wanted to hear that over and over again. So I made my mum take me down to Woolworths to buy it. And I sung it to the woman that was working in Woolworths, going bum 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 bum. And she's like, oh yeah, no, we got it. I got a cassette of it. I think it was on an album. And I remember like a few years later, it wasn't like right at that time, but when I first became aware that you could manipulate music and like kind of make it do what you wanted to do, that it wasn't like this static thing that you had to just like kind of listen to, that you could actually
you weren't passive, solely passive. Yeah,
exactly. And I didn't know anybody else did this at the time, but I've heard a few people say, like, and there was a few times in my life that I thought I was a bit of a pioneer, but I was actually like completely wrong, because people all over the world were doing exactly the same thing. People probably next to, like in my road, were doing the same thing.
that's true.
But I made a
But
pause record tape.
isn't that such a cool thing now when you reflect on it? It's like the unknowingness of things, you know, like now you've got so much access to everything and everyone, but literally you could be next door to someone doing the exact same thing and you had no idea.
No idea. It's the innocence of it. It's like the pure innocence
of it. The innocence of it, absolutely.
Yeah, I used to make these tapes, basically, like these pause record tapes. So I'd let the first part of the music go, like the first, and that's how I learned to count bars as well. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'd let 2 bars go, pause the record tape, rewind it back, get right to the point where the beat was supposed to start again, then press play and pause like that, and let them play. And I used to make like kind of loops of the tracks that I really liked. I'd say the third most impactful thing, and again, this is pretty impactful, was when I heard Big Daddy Kane say it off, and that's what put me into rap music, hip hop music. It, like the big drums, the rapping, it had everything that I wanted to hear, basically, like big drums and like rapping and scratches, and I was aware of what scratching was at that time, but it just had absolutely everything that I wanted to hear.
Phenomenal. Like, yeah, obviously I know of your love of hip hop, hence my Wu-Tang top today. Yeah. But no, it's like, yeah, it's just incredible how, yeah, you were obviously in Northwest London, but so heavily influenced by, you know, American music and obviously rap music. The power of music, man, is just like universal language. You know, it's incredible. You know, like I've got friends in India who are obsessed with reggae, or you know, like it's just incredible. And so
there's a voice that speaks through music, like and
absolutely,
and especially reggae, especially hip hop. Soul music. There's a lot of forms of music. I mean, the same can be said. Not that I'm a fan of it at all, but the same could be said to a certain extent about country, like country music. The stories that are told in country music. I'm from an Irish background. I've got a lot of Irish family. And there's so many people on the Irish side of my family, and I know for a fact there's a massive thing over there. The country music speaks directly to Irish people, like the more rural kind of Irish people. But I think especially with reggae, hip hop, soul, there's a voice that speaks through it that you can like kind of look at it on a very like kind of if you hear the music on a deeper level, you'll hear that voice, and if that voice resonates with you, it's something that you can like kind of attach your soul to, for sure.
Absolutely, it's like, I think it's a storytelling also, isn't it? It's storytelling, it's relatability, it's yeah, I think in those genres in particular, there's a lot of life experience that's shared. And obviously you gravitate to what you yourself know or have experienced, and it's bonding, you know.
I mean, the thing about reggae as well, on a very casual level, I mean, and most people, not saying there's anything special about people like us, because I don't think there is, but
I feel there is.
Fair enough. But like, you can listen to reggae, especially on a very casual level. You can listen to Bob Marley and feel it and love it, and love the melodies, and and I'm not just talking about like kind of the message that underpins all his music, but like you can also listen to it on a much deeper level, and it can really touch you, and you can understand. And I'm not just talking about the lyrics, I'm talking about the structure of the music, the keys that are used, everything about it can touch you on a very deeper level as well. Like reggae is especially like kind of like special for that kind of thing, and I think hip hop can be as well, because you can hear hip hop on one level where you either sometimes maybe offended by it, or you kind of you resonate with it a little bit. But if you dig a tiny bit deeper on most hip hop music, then like, and I'm talking like generationally good hip hop music. They're still being made today. It's been being made since the 70s. Like I'm not like an elitist when it comes to hip hop whatsoever.
Yeah.
But you can listen to it on two different levels, like on a very like kind of like casual level and kind of nod your head to it. But then you can also listen to it on a deeper level and just really like kind of it resonates with your soul.
Absolutely, I agree. I definitely agree with that. And so you described at the start a bit about obviously your first recollection, what have you, but would you say, how did you get involved? Was it a natural kind of like progression, or was there like, I'm going to do this? Or was it kind of like,
I
yeah,
think without really knowing it, I wanted to, like I said before, like I kind of when I realised that I didn't have to be a passive, like kind of listener to music, that I could get involved, that the
mm-hmm,
tools were there for me to, like kind of on a very like kind of basic level, dub a cassette off, or I could write a rap. I was a terrible rapper, but like I could write a rap if I wanted to, or I could break dance, or I could, and that's one of the great things about hip hop as well. There's a lot of different ways to get involved with the actual
mm-hmm,
culture itself. To a certain time, probably to my like kind of like probably when I was about 12, 13, is when I realized that I could go out and buy records. I didn't have to go down to I don't know, to R Price or something like that. I could go to secondhand record shops and find music that had been deleted for 20 years before, and I could find like kind of all this cool music. And I just really got involved in music. Like I just wanted to be around music all the time. I was like a boy lost in music. Like when I discovered that I could get it and I could maybe scratch it as well, and I could drop parts and then rewind it and drop it again and stuff like that. That's what made me think I could do this for the rest of my life. Like it wasn't like a really like a conscious thought. There wasn't a spark that happened one day when I thought I'm going to be a DJ, because I don't think I even really knew what a DJ was at the
yeah,
time. But I was buying lots of vinyl. I was like manipulating it. I was slowing it down. I was like scratching with it because I'd seen scratching.
mm-hmm,
So the next thing for that really, after I'd done all I could do with the cassettes, was get a pair of turntables. And my dad was an ice cream man, so I ended up working in in a freezer for like 2 summers and he didn't pay me. He just put the money aside for a pair of turntables for me.
wow,
So I ended up getting like a pair of Sound Lab belt drive turntables, which were awful, but it taught me everything that I know. And I'm not one of these boomers who's like, yeah, but vinyl's the best and you've got to learn on vinyl before you learn on anything else, which is not true anymore at all. But I do genuinely feel like it was the best boot camp that I could have had, is learning to DJ and scratch on the worst pair of turntables in the world. Very soon after that, I got a pair of Technics 1210s. But before even that, I discovered Public Enemy, and Public Enemy were massive for me at that point. So not really being like thinking that I could participate in the music. I just knew that I could participate in the knowledge. Like
yeah,
I could go out and read books. I mean, there's plenty of authors and writers and stuff like that are recommended as part of in Public Enemy's music. But I remember going to the library and getting books, like getting Malcolm X's biography and reading up about Marcus Garvey. Like and asking my history teacher about Marcus Garvey. I would ask him. I was talking to him about like the Black Star Liner and stuff like that. It was something that I could get involved in. It was something that I could populate my brain with, because I thought it was something that was healthy, and it was something that was, which it is. It still is. It's made me the man I am today, really. But it felt like something that I could be part of. Even though I was a white kid from Watford, it felt like something that I could participate in. It just
yeah,
wasn't. And the mad thing about it was, I got so lost in music for so many years, in the culture of hip hop, that it kind of segregated me from a lot of my. Segregation's a bad word to use, really. it put me apart from a lot of my friends, because it's not like they didn't want to hang out
Distance
with
you,
me.
yeah.
It distanced me, yeah. Maybe into a little bit of a loner, because it's not like I didn't want to hang out with them or they didn't hang out with me. But I would rather just be at home reading a book and listening to music. Like I never, like
Wow.
I remember getting like a NES, like a Super Nintendo. Oh, it wasn't even a Super Nintendo; it was a Nintendo Entertainment System
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
Christmas one year, because that's what Dads bought their kids. And I had like a couple of games for it. I must have turned it on twice. I remember that same year I got A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing by Black Sheep, which is still one of my favorite albums. And all I did was listen to that and tape radio shows. That's all I did, like over that Christmas.
Wow.
I ended up like selling the NES to like my cousin or something like that about 6 months later.
So you were absolutely a boy lost in music, like you described earlier.
Lost in music and culture. Yeah.
No, I get that. What would you say, on from that, was the most impactful song?
I would definitely say 100%. Big Daddy Kane set off 100%. Like that. That is what, because around about that time, I think that was probably about 88, 89 kind of time. And it was quite soon after that I was like, right, I'm going to be a DJ. Like I got my turntables. It wasn't very long after that at all. But from there, there was a lot of different music knocking around of like of that generation. There was house, and there was the beginnings of acid house, and like all that kind of dance music, and a lot of it had rapping on it, a lot of it didn't. Anything that was like kind of had a little bit of rapping on it is what I wanted, or scratching or anything like that is what I wanted to listen to. And then when I heard Set It Off, I was like, this is it. This is the one. This is the, like I said earlier, the drums, the rapping. I just want to hear more music like this, and that's what led me into because I looked up who Big Daddy Kane had worked with and stuff like that, and that's what led me into Public Enemy. That's what led me into X Clan. That's what led me into Third Base once I found out about Def Jam and EPMD and lots of like that's where the
Phenomenal. And so, without music, where would you be?
I don't even know. I have no idea. Like I really.
It's that serious. It is.
Yeah. I know a lot of people say this, but like my everyday, every waking moment pretty much is music. I mean, some of it's business, some of it's, I mean, for instance, for like the last from 99 to 2014, 15, I was a DJ nomad. Like I traveled the world with bags of records. Later on with CDs. Later on with USBs. Never really like kind of had a home. Like I used to store all my stuff at my mum's. Rented a couple of flats here, there, and whatever. But all my stuff stayed at my mum's. My record collection was at my mum's. And I just used to travel the world. I used to go from like Australia to straight to Canada, then from Canada to Russia to Kazakhstan, I don't know, to Spain to Poland, and then I come home like have a shower, have some food at my mum's, then go and play at Fabric, and then go out for the night, and then get home 2 days later. I'll be off to, I don't know, America or something like that, and that didn't stop for like a decade.
Wow.
Whilst I've got some of the most amazing memories of that, like some of the best people I've ever met, the experiences that I had, the places that I've been. Like I mean, half the places I didn't even take photos of. Like I found a picture of me at the Great Wall of China the other day, and I was like,
I saw that.
Yeah,
I did see that.
A picture of me somewhere that's important. Like most of the time, there's a couple of pictures of me knocking around at the Grand Canyon as well. There's one of me at Niagara Falls and stuff like that, or like the Great Buddha in Hong Kong and stuff like that. But most of the time, that I didn't even take pictures. It was so like kind of whirlwind. But yeah, I've got plenty of pictures of me in clubs. But yeah, so there was that, and then I like kind of moved on to when I got back. I was like, because it's a hard thing for some people to admit, but that can't happen forever. And it's not because your intention is to do it forever. Is that the market may not want you there forever.
Yeah.
But that doesn't degrade my love for music. It just degrades my love for the music industry and the sometimes toxic things that go around in the music industry. So
very true.
I thought, well, I'll train to be a social worker. So I went back to college. Well, I say back to college. I went to art college when I was like 16 and just about like kind of fell through it. But I went to college to be a social worker. So I did that for a couple of years and I got the most amount of respect for anybody who does that job because I couldn't like for, and this is like a slight on myself that I just couldn't do a job that doesn't involve music, that isn't there and isn't like kind of I'm not present within music every day. So I decided to turn that into On the Rise DJ Academy and like, use what I'd learned like sociology, psychology, like social work, social policy and stuff like that, and turn that into something
resourceful.
Yeah, tried to turn it into something like this, like my On the Rise DJ Academy, which it took a little while to like kind of turn over. I was doing DJ lessons from the very beginning, but the being like kind of being able to work with vulnerable people, young offenders, neat like young people not in any other educational training, working for Brent, working for private organisations and stuff like that. So that's kind of where, because when I stopped DJing so much, it could have gone really wrong, and I could have gone like, "This
Very
is
true. It happens a lot.
Happens all the time." Yeah, but I decided to funnel into something else, like concentrate for 2 years, and then came out the other side and kind of created this.
And here we are. Here we are.
Yeah.
So, very final question of the series. Obviously, it's called Music Is, and I get all my guests to say music is, and they finish it with what they believe music is to them. So, you?
Music is everything. Music is life. Music is, and that's the thing. When I say music, I also mean culture. Like the two go hand in hand. I've got the most amount of respect for anybody who nerds out on culture and is part of like kind of archiving or collecting or anything like that that's actively taking a part in the culture. Be like I say, I'm a young white kid from Watford when all my heroes are in Brooklyn and the Bronx and Queens and stuff like that. I knew that I wasn't going to be that. Like it's ridiculous to think that I could be part of that happening right now. So nerding out on the culture and trying not to appropriate it and like kind of and understanding it a little bit deeper than just like kind of guns and drugs and stuff like that, which I think is the kind of very surface level of a lot of this stuff. So I love when people indulge in the culture as much as they do the music. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Fantastic. That was a powerful statement. And no, I'm definitely going to note that. But thank you so much for being part of the Music Is series. Fourth guest, I'm so happy that we have had you on. Next week, we are going all the way to Brazil to speak with our next guest. So that's going to be exciting. But from you, so much love, and yeah, just lots of respect. Keep going on the Rise DJ Academy, and yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for doing wicked stuff, Charlie. Thank you very much for having me on.
You're more than welcome. You take care. Blessings.